Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. It is me, Bree of Evermore Reads, and this time we are having a bit of a September wrap-up video with a twist. Usually when booktubers and bookstagrammers do their monthly wrap-up, they're wrapping up all the books that they've read, but as much as I love to read, I love to do a lot of other things too. And September was just one of those months where I was coming off the biggest reading slump that I've had in months. I was just distracted doing so many other things, and I was really busy. I decided that for this month and from all the months coming after, I'm not just gonna do a reading wrap up, I'm gonna do a monthly wrap up of what I've read, watched, played, and as the months go on, I'll develop the category of what the monthly wrap up will be. So this month it's going to be what I read, watched, and played. Yeah, read, watched, and played. A storm is rolling in right now in Trinidad. Like, I'm looking out my window at the Gulf of Paria, and it's kind of scary. So if you see the lighting in this video progressively getting worse, I apologize. That's the reason why. I realized for this intro I forgot to put on my ring light, so hopefully the lighting is better in the next clip. But yeah, I have my trusty clipboard with my list so that I don't forget anything. I have my cup that's the size of my head with my drink, which is water, because hydration is key. And let's get into it. What I read, watched, and played in September. Let there be light. I turned on my ring light, we're ready to go. And these are some of the books that I read in September. So for September, I would say I read a grand total of 4 books. Some cases we will consider it 3 because I DNF'd one of them, and that book that I DNF'd was the first book, God Killer by Hannah Kena. I spoke about it in my book haul. Jesus, the rain is coming, guys, the rain is coming. Yeah, let me make this clip quick. I spoke about it in my book haul. That was supposed to be a high fantasy YA about a girl who's a god killer helping out a girl who has a god attached to her. The idea of a world overrun by gods who take advantage of humans and people who are tasked to destroy and kill those gods sounds really intriguing. The fact that there's so much turmoil, there's an apparent uprising, the king himself is very sick and he's dying, he doesn't have a successor, he doesn't have someone to carry forward his torch. All of these ideas are extremely intriguing, extremely interesting, and it just fell flat. The major premise of God Killer is that it's a journey story, so our main characters, they go on a journey, sort of a pilgrimage, but nothing happens on this journey. It's painfully slow, it's painfully boring, and I DNF'd it at the 50% mark. Would I have liked it towards the end? Sure, I'm almost positive that the end of the book redeems it. And before the year is done, I'm gonna go back and finish read it. But I was already in a reading slump and I was just hating reading that book. It felt like a chore. I was just so, I was not having a good time. I do still want to give it a chance because the premise is great, the writing is okay, it's passable, and so I would give it for now a 2 out of 5 because there's no reason in my opinion that the book should have been that boring. So that was God Killer by Hannah Kena. I'm still counting it towards a book that I've read in September because I spent 3 weeks trying to get through that book. I spent and dedicated a lot of time to that book, so I'm still gonna put it on this list. Next on the list is Romancing the Duke. I can't remember the name of the author. I'll put it somewhere right down here. I read this on my iPad after having read or trying to read God Killer. I was, as I said, in a reading slump, and I just wanted something that was quick, easy to get through, to give me that spike, to give me that flavor, to get me excited for reading again. And I knew romance would definitely give me that. I remember, was it in August or July, Carrie over at Carrie Can Read, she wanted a similar book and she was recommended Romancing the Duke. She read it quickly, she had a great time with it, and I was like, okay, sure, I'm gonna give it a try. and I did have a good time with it. It was fine. I read it out in, I think, a night or like a day, and it's your typical Regency style romance. There is this main character. She inherits a castle, and when she goes to the castle, it is very decrepit. It's practically in ruins, but she's happy because she has nowhere to live. But newsflash, somebody already lives there, the Duke of the castle. And so she and the Duke have to sort out their tenancy landlord issues, who has the rights to the property, who owns it. And of course, because this is a romance, they end up falling in love. One of the things that I really appreciated about this story is that one of our main characters, our Duke character, he is blind. He becomes blind because of an accident. He got into a fight, he had a duel, and he became blind. And he has difficulties, obviously, being blind because it's still new to him. He has learned how to maneuver and figure things out, but the way that he got blind often gets him super upset, and he doesn't like to talk about it. But a lot of the times when there are disabled characters in books and in stories, they have this sort of healing slash redemption trope. Ooh, did you hear that thunder? But yeah, so they start off the book disabled, and then by the end of the book, they're all right as rain. And I know a lot of people who have disabilities don't like this trope. And I definitely appreciate that this able-bodied girl falls in love with this disabled man. He's blind. And she helps him, she loves him. And by the end of the book, he doesn't miraculously get his eyesight back. His life doesn't improve because of any sort of medical thing. He continues to be blind, and they live their life together, and I really enjoyed that. The past couple books that I've read all feature disabled characters. So in Romancing the Duke, the main character, well, the second main character, our male love interest, he's blind. In God Killer, our main character, Kissen, she's an amputee. And in Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, our main character, Sam, is also an amputee. And I am just so happy that more mainstream books are featuring characters that are disabled, because it was only until now that I realized, wait a minute, I haven't read many books with characters that are disabled. And the amazing thing about these books is that their disability or their sickness or their illness, whatever they're experiencing, is not the main character. It is not the main plot. It's just something there, which I appreciate, because I've read books in the past where there's a character who has cerebral palsy or something else, and the entire story is about that, which is fine, that is relevant. But gone are the days where disabled characters are defined by their disability in literature. I just love all of these books that feature these types of diverse characters, and as a person who doesn't have a disability, it really enlightens me as to what their lives would be like, what their challenges are, and the fact that they can live perfectly normal lives, despite their challenges, once the proper infrastructure is in place. So yeah, all of that to say, I give Romancing the Duke a 3 out of 5 stars. It was a great book. Well, it wasn't a great book. It was a good book for what I wanted. It was funny, it was sweet, it was romantic, it was witty, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do, which was get me back into the mood for reading. The next book that I read in September was Painted Devils by Margaret Owens. So I spoke about it in my book haul, how I managed to acquire this book. It was sent to me by my friend on Bookstagram, Emily. I was super excited to have received it. I read the first book, which is Little Thieves, in August, and it was one of my favorite reads for August, and it is one of my favorite reads for the year. And this book was a wonderful follow-up to it. I give this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Let me tell you why. I really enjoyed it, but there was something missing in the story for me. So before I get into what was missing in this story for me, what was it about? Well, let me read you the synopsis. Let's get one thing straight. Vanja Smith wasn't trying to start a cult. Pause. I don't know if her name is pronounced Vanja or Vanya. I'm gonna pronounce it Vanya from now on. After taking down a corrupt Margrave, breaking a deadly curse, and finding romance with the vexingly scrupulous junior prefect Emmerich Conrad, Vanya had one great mystery left: her long-lost birth family, and whether they would welcome a thief. But in her search for an honest trade, she hit trouble and invented a god, the Scarlet Maiden, to scam her way out. Now that lie is growing out of control, especially when Emmerich arrives to investigate and the Scarlet Maiden manifests to claim him as a virgin sacrifice. For his final test to become a prefect, Emmerich must determine if Vanya is guilty of a serious fraud or if the Scarlet Maiden and her claim to him is genuine. Meanwhile, Vanya is chasing an alternative sacrifice that could be their way out. The hunt leads her not only into the lairs of monsters and the paths of God, but also the ties of her past. And with what should be the simplest way to save Emmerich hanging over their heads, he and Vanya must face a more dangerous question. Is there a future for a thief and a prefect, and at what cost? So, the rain is down, guys. The rain is down. So, one of my major issues with this book was the plot. There was so much going on in the plot, and sometimes it didn't feel that cohesive. I wasn't really understanding the lore of everything that was happening, and it worked in Little Thieves. In Little Thieves, there was still a lot going on, but I think the plot of Little Thieves was a lot more contained than the plot of Painted Devils. Painted Devils is much bigger, it's almost 500 pages, and sometimes it felt like there's always something going on, but I was just confused some of the time in terms of like plot progression and stuff like that. I think what made it confusing is the fact that there were so many different characters were introduced to her family, and there's so many of them, and we don't get to spend a lot of time with them. They just change and keep coming rapidly as time goes along, and it just got confusing for me to keep up with everybody. I wish there was a character glossary in the back of the book or in the front. A family tree would have been perfect, but I understand why that wouldn't have been put here because they didn't want to spoil anything. But yeah, I really enjoyed the book. The plot was amazing. I was so happy to get more of Vanya and Emmerich's relationship as a couple, and I really enjoyed this. Okay guys, I'm back. I stopped filming for a little bit because that storm really came in hot and heavy and I wasn't hearing myself speak, so I was like, I don't know if the camera would even pick up like the sound of my voice over the sound of the rain. But the storm has died down a little bit now, so let's see if we can get the rest of this video on the road. So the next book that I read was Jasper Vale by Devney Perry, the fourth book in the Edens series. The Edens series is a romance book series following the Edens, which is a family of siblings set in Montana, small town Montana, USA. I can't remember the name of the town right now, the fictional town, but I think it's about 6 or 7 siblings, and each book is supposed to follow a different sibling. And so we are on the 4th sibling in the family. Her name is it's not Elodie. I can't remember her name right now. I'm sorry guys. As soon as I finish reading a book, character names and plots sometimes fly out of my head. But our main girl, we'll call her Female Eden, is involved with Jasper Vale, who is, the book is named after him, Jasper Vale. And basically what happens is that one drunken night in Las Vegas, I need to figure out her name. What's her name? One moment guys, let me get her name. Not Elodie, her name is Eloise. There we go. So one drunken night, Eloise and Jasper decide to get married in Las Vegas, And this is a bad thing because Elo- Elo- Eloise is trying to show her parents that she can be a responsible adult, make all the best decisions, so that her parents can finally give her the keys to the castle, which is the Eloise in the family's hotel and the hotel that she runs and manages. This is bad for Jasper because he is in a sort of like a midlife crisis, quarter life crisis, if you would say, because he's a trainer, a boxer trainer, a fighting trainer, and his main client has just retired from boxing. And so he's like, okay, what am I going to do now? On top of that, he has moved to Montana with this client of his who is marrying Eloise's sister. So it's like his best friend. He don't want to keep secrets from his best friend, and it's just a lot of like tension. And so Eloise and Jasper want to get their marriage annulled because it was a drunken mistake. However, they decide to continue staying married to each other despite the fact that they don't really like each other that much, because if she remains married, it will show her parents that she's responsible, and if he remains married, he will be able to show his ex, who is getting married, that he got over her. So that's the premise. Of course, because they remain married, they're living in the same house, they start off not liking each other, but they end up growing feelings for each other, and they both start questioning if annulling the marriage, if getting a divorce is really something they want to do, or if they want to really give this relationship a shot. Now, I enjoyed Jasperville much more than the book that I just read. It's not Garnet Flats. So I think the first book is Juniper Hill, the second book is Garnet Flats. I can't remember the name of the third book, but the fourth book is Jasperville. I absolutely detested the third book, loved the first two books, and Jasperville redeemed my trust in Daphne Perry as the author. It was really fun. It was really nice. It's a great small town romance. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Just like Romancing the Duke, it was a romance that gave me what I wanted it to give. However, that doesn't mean it's without issues. I feel like the reason why they wanted to keep their marriage a secret is so foolish and so stupid. First, to begin with, Eloise is so concerned that her parents think she's irresponsible because of a mistake that she made with an employee years prior. She assumes that her parents think that she's so soft-hearted that she would never be able to be responsible and tough enough to run the business. And her parents never show that they distrust her. As a matter of fact, when the book begins, they say, here, we want to hand over the hotel to you right now, like this year. And she assumes that just because she got married, her parents are going to take away the hotel from her, which to me makes no sense, because this whole marriage / relationship situation is happening in her personal life. The reason her parents hesitated in the past is because she had an issue in her professional life with the hotel, with staffing, with employees, that caused them to end up in court. Like, her parents, I don't understand. I just don't understand why she was so apprehensive about this whole situation and how it will affect her status in the hotel. Even when she did tell her parents were surprised. They were a little disappointed in her, but they never bring up the hotel as being collateral in the situation. So I just found Eloise was being a bit immature, and she was definitely overreacting. And I would say the same thing about Jasper. Jasper is apprehensive about his marriage to Eloise because for some reason he feels like it's going to destroy his relationship with Foster, which is his client but also his best friend and Eloise's future brother-in-law. And I just don't see it. I'm like, why does he think the relationship with Foster, his friendship, is going to be destroyed? Like, no matter how much I read, I could not find the logic. Just tell your best friend. He's going to be surprised. He might be a little disappointed that you didn't tell him. before, but once you tell him the circumstance that it was a drunken mistake, we're trying to figure out and see if this relationship would actually work, he'll be fine. He'll support you. He'll try to help you. And that's exactly what happened. When both of them told their families and their friends, again, the initial reaction was shock. There was a little bit of upset because they kept it a secret. But everybody was fine after a while, especially Foster and Jasper. And so I just found that conflict very contrived. It was like, it didn't make sense. I was very happy to get past it because to me it made no sense. The other conflict, which is the fact that Jasper can really get over his ex because she was his first love, and he comes from money, and in those moneyed families they kind of have arranged marriages, and she was that arranged marriage for him. And she's a narcissist, she's very conniving, and she had this kind of hold over Jasper. And so he wanted, through his relationship with Eloise, to get rid of this hold that his ex-wife had on him. And I found that was compelling and that was interesting, and I actually enjoyed seeing their relationship. It's a grumpy sunshine dynamic, with Jasper being our grumpy and Eloise being our sunshine. And I enjoyed this spin on it because Jasper isn't sunshiny for Eloise, as in most grumpy sunshine tropes. He remains grumpy, he's very quiet, he doesn't say a lot, he conceals his emotion. Eloise frequently feels that he doesn't care for her or that he doesn't like her, which is not cool. But there's a reason why he doesn't wear his heart on his sleeves. There's a reason why he's so reserved. And he does open up a little more throughout the book, but it's not easy for him. Even at when the book finishes, he still keeps some things from Eloise. Not bad things, but he still keeps some things from her. And I think that's really realistic. We'd like to think that love is unconditional and we'll tell our partner everything, but that's not realistic. And so I really like the fact that he maintained his personality despite being in love with Eloise and having this relationship with her. So all in all, I would give it a 3 out of 5 stars. I genuinely enjoyed this small tongue romance. I enjoyed the majority of books in the Eden series, and if you're looking for something like it, I definitely would recommend it. Although I feel like Juniper Hill and is it Garner Flats is the second one, they were better. Like, they're the creme de la creme for me of the Eden series. Moving on to what I watched in the month of September, we are starting off hot and heavy with The Summer I Turned Pretty. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I finally watched it. I first read The Summer I Turned Pretty when I was 13 years old, the entire series, and I loved it. I reread it when I was 18, and I was like, this did not age well. I didn't love it as much, but I still appreciated it as a series that made up like my formative years. And then I read it when I was like 21 or 20 going on 21, when the series was coming out, the Amazon Prime series. And I was like, I absolutely hate Belly. What is the plot of this book? She's really selfish, and like, just cancel. Belly should be cancelled. So I was really interested to see how it will translate to the silver screen. And I would say that I enjoyed the TV series much more than I enjoyed the books. Belly is still insufferable and a bit self-centered because she's a teenager, and teenagers can be like that sometimes. It's accurate. I really loved the way they cast the show. Even though the actors are all in their 20s, they still look like teenagers, especially Gavin Castellano, who plays Jeremiah. He looks like what you think a 16-year-old boy should look like. Belly, I don't know the name of the actress that plays Belly, but she looks the part. They all are at the summer house, they're having a great time, and I just felt all the feels, especially in the first season. It transported me, and I just really loved it. Perfect thing to watch during summer. If you don't know what The Summer I Turned Pretty about, it's basically following Belly, whose real name is Isabella Conklin, every summer for her entire life, she and her family have gone to her mom's best friend's summer house to spend the entire summer vacation with their family. They are like family, they're best friends, they love each other so much, and Belly always looks forward to spending her summer with her mom's best friend's family. Her mom's best friend's name is Susanna, and Susanna has two sons, Conrad and Jeremiah. Conrad being older, Jeremiah being younger, and Belly has always had this unrequited crush on Conrad. However, Conrad and frankly nobody else ever really noticed Belly because she was always the little sister in a bunch, and she was not really any much to look at. She was just there. Until one summer, the summer of Belly's 16th birthday, she glows up. It's literally called the summer I turn pretty. She comes to the house in Cousins Beach, and everybody's like, wow, Belly, you've got hot. And Belly is like, you know what? This summer, I'm not gonna spend it moping inside because I have no friends. I'm not gonna spend it tagging along behind the boys because they're the only friends I have. I am going to make this summer my own. I'm going to have a summer fling. I'm going to go to parties. I'm going to make friends. This is going to be the summer that I'll never forget. And part of that for her is getting over her crush on Conrad. However, what she doesn't know is that Conrad has a crush on her. And chaos ensues. It is a love triangle between Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah. And the love triangle is triangling, guys. Like, it's always bouncing between the three of them. And I would say in season 2 it got really tedious and really exhausting, especially because one minute you're rooting for Conrad, the next minute you're rooting for Jeremiah, and then also you just want Belly not to be with any of them because it's causing so much heartache and pain. But then also they love each other so much outside of the romance, and they need each other. They're family, especially after they go through so much. So this show is not just about the romance. There's a lot going on with the moms, Susanna and Laurel, that's Belly's mom's name. Susanna is sick with cancer, and so they're all struggling with that aspect. Susanna's also divorcing her husband, which is causing a lot of turmoil for Jeremiah. His parents are divorcing. His mom is sick with cancer. He's the older son, and he kind of has to carry the weight of all of this on his shoulders. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know, don't let it show, Elsa style. He has to be the responsible one. He doesn't get to show his emotion and his feelings, and so you feel really sorry for Conrad. And then we have Jeremiah. He's a golden retriever in human form. He is fun-loving, he's sweet, super good-looking, very popular with the ladies. He doesn't know anything of what's going on. He's realizing that he has feelings for Belly, and he doesn't know how to deal with it because she was always this little sister figure to him. And it's just so much turmoil, so much confusion. I definitely recommend it. A lot of people didn't like season 2 because it didn't have as many fun moments as season 1 did. And you know what? That's what teenage life is like. It's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows, especially after all the difficulties that they go through. It's going to take a long time for them to recover. And for someone who has gone through difficult, like, years in my life, I found it was realistic the way they portray the aftermath of everything that happens at the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2. The struggles that they have with their relationships, how they're trying to save what little memories they have of how life used to be like before. It has a special place in my heart. I don't like the books anymore, but the TV series to me is really good. I love what they're doing. They're showing teenage life without all of the sex, violence, and drugs that people have come to associate with teenage life when you watch shows like Euphoria, which are not accurate descriptions of the majority of teenagers out there. So I appreciate that the Summer I Turned Pretty show exists, and I really hope it gets renewed for season 3. I really want to see how they will tackle the 3rd book, because some stuff happened in that book, and I don't know how I feel about if they keep those things for the TV series. I've read articles about the fact that Jenny Han is working with the producers and the directors to change up some of the plot and some of the storyline. So I don't know. We'll just have to see how that goes. We'll just have to see how that goes. But I do recommend the Samaritan Pretty, but probably do your own research before you watch it to see if you like it as well. So the new season of Love is Blind is out, and I have watched all of the episodes that have been released so far, and it is completely different from anything that I've watched in the past in terms of Love is Blind. I feel like in the past season, the one that came before, it felt like a lot of the contestants were on the show for being on the show's sake. They wanted to be popular, they wanted to be in the media, they wanted to be talked about, and they wanted to be gossiped, blogged about, all the things. But this season, I felt like they casted it really well. Everybody seems to be genuinely interested, if not in getting married, in definitely finding a relationship. They all have had difficult romantic pasts. Say, for example, somebody's a nerd and they've had difficulty finding somebody that meshes with them. People who have exes who've been married before, they've had challenges, and so I've enjoyed this new cast. I definitely have enjoyed seeing their interactions in comparison to the previous season. I was very surprised to see that coming out of the pods, we only had 3 couples, which seemed like a very small amount, especially given the fact that after the pods, when they go to their little honeymoon/vacation, we usually lose at least 1 couple. Which means if we're coming out of the pods with only 3 couples and we lose 1 couple in the honeymoon stage, then for the rest of the show, we're only going to be focusing on 2 couples. And to me, that seemed like, how much content would you be able to get from just 2 couples? I felt like it would be boring, it will drag. I was wondering if they were going to have less episodes this season, given the way the tables turned in terms of the amount of couples they're focusing on. When it comes to the altar section, when they actually get married, again, only 2 couples as opposed to 4 or 5. And I just found that to be super interesting, because to me it shows that I don't know the behind the scenes of Love is Blind, but these dating reality shows or reality shows have the producers really doing a lot of mess behind the scenes, setting things up, being very conniving, convincing the contestants to do things that they don't want to do just for the sake of the show. But this season, it felt like they just left people to do what they wanted to do, which is why we have so few couples to carry the rest of the show. Uche and Aaliyah leaves in the middle of the pods and leaves Uche hanging. The show definitely did not prepare for that. When Uche asked to speak to Aaliyah, we hear the producers talking to Uche. He speaks to Aaliyah on the producer's phone. And then we have JP and I can't remember her name, but JP and the girl, like JP, he's the worst. Like, there's a meme going around, people saying that they know where JP was on January 6th, which is the Capitol riots, and I felt at first that it was very insensitive, because, like, oh my gosh, how can you say that about him? But like, it's real, because everything that he wears on his show has the American flag on it, which is like, okay, I guess you're a patriot. Like, okay, that's a little red flagish. And then he doesn't speak. He never speaks. And when I saw how weird he was behaving at the honeymoon stage, I wanted to go back to the first 2-3 episodes to see how he was in the pods, because I was like, was he speaking in the pods at all? How did he build enough of a relationship with this girl to be convinced that she would make a good wife, to be convinced that he wanted to propose to her? On top of all of that, he blames their lack of a relationship and their awkwardness in person to the fact that when he first saw her, she had on a bunch of makeup and she had on lashes, and he was like, that made me feel uncomfortable because it showed me you were fake, and I don't want no fakeness, and that just threw me off, and I'm still recovering from that. And I felt like she handled the situation very well. She didn't cave just because she wanted a relationship or she wanted to be with anybody. She didn't say like, okay, well, I won't wear makeup. You know, she stood her ground because, yeah, women wear makeup not for men but for themselves. Sometimes they want to look different, sometimes they want to look fancy, and that's that. She said, I'm not going to stop wearing makeup just because of you, which is valid. And I think, ladies, take the advice from me. If a man ever says, I don't like you wearing makeup, cancel that man. Run, because that's not his business. And if he's making it his business so much that he has a huge problem and he's gonna withhold speaking to you just because he saw you with makeup once. Literally, JP saw her with makeup once and then he never speaks to her ever again. But at the same time, he wants her to not give up on him, and have faith in him and their relationship. Like, what is she supposed to have faith in? What is she supposed to rely on? You don't speak to her. Oh my gosh, guys, I am so happy that she left him. I don't want him to be back on his show ever. As a matter of fact, when everybody who was in the pause meets back up to see what everybody looks like and just chill, one of the guys talks about the fact that did they break up because JP never spoke to her. And he was right, like he was just guessing, but he's totally correct. So it's crazy to me because in terms of casting, obviously the producers want people that they could work with, want people that will give them good juicy content, and JP gave them nothing, and it was so difficult to watch. It was painful to watch, and I really want, when the reunion comes, that they throw together a montage of all the times that she's trying to talk to him and him not even responding, and ask him what that is about, because he's terrible. The thing with Uche and Lydia, moving on to another couple, I find it weird, really weird, that Uche and Lydia were together outside of the pods, and all of a sudden somehow they end up on a show together. I find that's crazy. Uche said that Lydia followed him on his show on purpose, and that's why Aaliyah and him broke up, because it just felt too weird for Aaliyah. Like, the coincidence was too strong. And I agree. However, when Uche confronts Lydia about it, I definitely think he was wrong. I think he was drunk, and I think that he should not have even tried to rehash and bring back up all that dirty laundry, because Lydia is there with Milton. She's in love with him. She's not interested in having a relationship with Uche. Even if she went into the show with that purpose, she found somebody else, and she's well over Uche. So for him to kind of rehash this whole situation was very messy of him, and I was very happy with Lydia for standing her ground and not giving him the time of day. Kudos Lydia, kudos. I definitely think that she had ill intentions at first, but in the end, I'm with Lydia. The next couple we have from Love is Blind is Izzy and Stacy, and I don't know if I see them getting married because of the fact that Stacy is very high maintenance, and I don't think that's a bad thing. She's high maintenance because that's how she was raised. She was raised in a middle class / upper middle class family. She's accustomed traveling every year to Europe with her family, and she has a great job. She's bought and is fully renovating her own home. She has lots of goals for herself. She's very strict and strategic about her finances, and she's high maintenance because she could maintain herself, and she wants to be with a man who can maintain her. And Izzy is not that person. Men like to say they like a high maintenance woman, but when it actually comes to it, they some of them, like Izzy, start pulling back, because when Izzy meets up with Stacy's family, Stacy's dad notices immediately that Izzy seems uncomfortable, out of his depth. He is not in the same tax bracket as them, and her dad is concerned about that because You know, any parent, when their child gets married, they don't want their child to go down. They want their child to, you know, go up. They want their child to be with somebody who matches them in not just personality, but in terms of socioeconomic status. And so the dad says that, you know, my daughter likes nice things. I gave them nice things growing up. Not saying that, you know, you don't like nice things, but if she wants to go on a trip, if she wants an expensive handbag, what are you gonna tell her? She can't get it. You know, even if you tell her no, she's gonna get it for herself. And so there's gonna come a point in the relationship where she's the one maintaining herself, she's getting all the nice things for herself. You are denying her these things, and she ends up resenting you. And I can definitely see Izzy pulling back because she she being Stacy is out of his league. So I would be very interested to see if they remain a couple throughout the end of the show. Izzy confronts I what's her name? He had another girl in the pods. I can't remember her name. He confronts her and he was wrong. Johnny. Her name is Johnny. Johnny is with a new guy that she met in the pods. They're in a relationship. She's happy. Even though things with Izzy didn't end well, she doesn't care. She's happy. She's happy. Izzy's with Stacy. She's on her own chilling. And Izzy comes to speak with her and makes bacchanal. Just like when Uche went to speak with Lydia and make bacchanal, I find Izzy was wrong because, like, they're in other relationships. They're happy with their new partners. Why are you dragging up this dirty laundry? Why are you getting them upset? And I think if both of them have the same issue, they like to have control. They don't like to feel like they've won. They like to have the last laugh and the last say. And I am super like excited to see what people like Kenny JD and D'Angelo and other commentary YouTubers that I watch have to say about this new season, because I just find a lot of interesting things were happening that we haven't seen in other seasons. So yeah, that's what I've been watching. Love is. And now for the last segment of this video. If this video is an hour long, I apologize, okay? I love media. I consume a lot of media. But the last thing that I'll be talking about is what I played. And I own a Nintendo Switch. I'm new to the gaming world, and I'm not like big gamer girly. Games are super expensive, and I prefer to spend my money on books rather than on games. And so the only game that I've really been playing is a free one called Sky Children of the Light. It is a massive multiplayer game on my Switch. You can also download it from the App Store, whether you have a Samsung or an Apple device. It's available on Steam by the end of the year. Like wherever you get games, you can get this game. I recommend it to everybody. It is so beautiful. It is so interesting. You can play it in quote unquote easy mode, where you just go through all the different very beautiful and very stunning worlds in the game, collecting lost light and, you know, helping out lost spirits and all of that. Just playing the game on smooth easy mode. Or you can do quests, you can do challenges, which tend to be a little more difficult. You can find hidden worlds within the worlds of the game, where you have to, like, you know, again, as I said, quests and challenges that can be very, very, very difficult. In the first level, there's a hidden world, and in that hidden world, you have to do different trials. So there's the trial of water, the trial of light, the trial of air, and the trial of earth. And they are so difficult, they are so stressful. Oh my gosh, I actually had to use guides on YouTube to help me get through a lot of them, but it was really fun, and I definitely recommend the game. Again, you don't need a Nintendo Switch to be able to play this game. You can get it on your mobile device, you can get it on your iPad, you can get it on your desktop. Wherever you play games, you can get it. Wherever you buy games, you can get it. And the best part, it's free. There are paid elements of the game, but you definitely don't need those elements in order to have the full user/player experience. It's not like there are certain parts of the game that are locked only to play players. No, it's just like you have to pay if you want like fancy costumes and decorations and stuff, which doesn't really have any bearing on my enjoyment. And so yeah, I love Sky Children of the Light. I recently played the final boss mode, and it was such a beautiful ending sequence to the game. And now I've started the game all over from scratch, and it's so fun. Going through the different modes, not modes, but the different worlds. Playing it at a much slower pace because I know where everything is. I'm getting to explore a little more. I'm trying to play it at a more professional level as opposed to an amateur. And it's just a great, really cozy game that also can be a bit challenging. So that is Sky Children of the Light. So guys, that is it for me. That is what I read, watched, and played in September. I read God Killer by Hannah Kana, Painted Devils by Margaret Owens, Romance and the Duke by another I can't remember, and Jasper Vale by Daphne Perry, with me DNFing God Killer for future time. I watched The Summer I Turned Pretty in its entirety. I'm really hoping it gets renewed for a third season. I also watched Love is Blind. I spoke at length about it. Sorry, not sorry. It's really entertaining. And I also watched okay, yeah, those are the two things that I watched. And then I also played Sky Children of the Light, which I definitely recommend for all of you out there. And so guys, thank you so much for coming and enjoying my September wrap up with me. Tell me, what have you read, watched, played, bought, done, went? Tell me, what are some interesting highlights from your September? That was mine. Today is the 2nd of October. It is a new month. It is very rainy. I am super excited for this month because I have some very strict and exciting reading goals that I hope to bring to you guys soon. And yeah, last quarter of the year, I hope you guys have some goals, some intentions, so that you can make it a good one. Thanks so much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and I can't wait to see you in another one soon. Bye.